Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has reportedly accepted an offer from trade union Solidarity to assist in supplying Eskom with skilled experts who have the necessary technical skills to help the government address the power crisis at Eskom. Gordhan informed the union that Eskom required power station engineers, including mechanical, nuclear and electrical, amongst others. For more on this, we're now joined on the line by Solidarity Research Institution head, Connie Mulder. Connie, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
First of all, how is Solidarity able to assist Eskom with skilled workers?
I think this list has a history. Is in 2019, when we were still in a power crisis as well, we presented the minister with a list of skilled engineers who we sourced from our members, whoever wanted to, who plain simply put up their hand and said, we're willing to come back where we are now. We're willing to come and help fix Eskom and help fix the generation crisis and help fix the electricity crisis and keep the lights on. This list was then ignored, but I think the hour has become very late indeed. And now we're in a situation where the minister has reached out to us to update that list and please provide it to him so that we can try and stabilize Eskom as long as possible and keep the lights on as long as possible. So that's why we're in the situation we're at now.
And why were these skilled workers not considered before? I mean, by individually applying for certain positions?
Yeah, I have no idea. At that moment, Eskom was still in I think, a very weird place to work at, given 9 years of state capture. Most competent people were forced out to allow looters to basically loot what they could. And several of these workers were retrenched from Eskom as well 20 years ago. So they were then at that point, and that's the irony of the matter, a lot of them were at that point in the Philippines or in Dubai, busy building power stations and solving other countries' power crises. And they, as well, several of those said, we'll do it at no cost. We'll come back and just man up. We just want to keep the power on. So we're quite, well, we were a bit angry that the hand of help that the helping hand that we reached out in 2019 wasn't accepted. But we're not bitter, and South Africa cannot afford people who are bitter and now are going to not help this time. We're obviously going to help any way we can, soften or help the energy crisis. Helps the country, helps people get off the streets and into jobs, which is what we desperately need at the moment.
Right. And from what I'm gathering, this surely is, experienced personnel. Are we talking about retired energy experts with years of experience, former employees perhaps? I mean, what's your pool of expertise looking like?
Yes, so it's a mixture. Several of these are retired Eskom personnel, retired energy experts. They might be past the age of retirement, but they're still more than capable of handing over skills, or at least for a short term, trying to fix some problems. Then there are a couple of new engineers who've also put their name on the list. Said they did apply, but they weren't considered. They think they've got the correct skills, but it's a large mix. I think when we checked the previous time, it's almost 50% engineers, 20% are artisans. The average amount of experience was 17 years per person that they had. So it's really a lot of skills that wanted to get back into Eskom. There are, however, it's always political when you're with Eskom, and we're not in the game of playing politics with power.
Yeah,
so we just need to get these people. Maybe I don't think it's going to be a long-term engagement, but we're in a crisis at the moment, and we need people to be there to be able to, if necessary, transfer these skills and then keep the power on a bit more whilst we transition out of Eskom as the sole generating entity.
Connie, is there perhaps an already existing database of such skilled people, or will you also be going on a recruitment drive for fresh young skills?
I think we've got this database, but we've opened it up again for a week to say, all right, we're going to open up again. We're not going to use everyone. Unfortunately, we'll have to trim the list a bit and to make it applicable. The minister asked specifically for skills in generation and nuclear engineering. So we're going to go through the list and make sure that we've got relevant people who are still willing and able. But obviously, we've opened it up for another week, saying if you've got the skills and you want to put your hand up and you want to come and help solve the energy crisis, please apply, and then we cannot promise you a job, but we can promise you that we'll hand over your name, if it's applicable, to Eskom's management as well as to the minister.
And what's the turnaround time? I mean, when can we expect this to be in effect?
So when you talk about government, we can't make any promises about when government will do something. We've seen that takes a while. From our perspective, we're going to open this list up for another week, and then the week after that we should be done. We're not going to waste a lot of time. This is a crisis. We'll go through that and make sure that in the first week of August we send that list through.
So are you promising us that with the skill set that's now provided by Solidarity, the load shedding wars would soon be over at Eskom?
I can't promise load shedding will be over. Unfortunately, whenever you hand over something to government, you're not in control anymore. What we are promising, however, is we will provide the list of skills, and these guys do know a lot about energy generation, and they should be able to soften it. However, we've released a report on it as well and did some extensive research. If we continue relying on Eskom alone to provide power, then no, we're going to be in load shedding for the next 8 to 13 years, and after that, even worse. So we're at the same time moving towards saying South Africa needs to go with large-scale, small-scale generation. We need to make sure that we decentralize power generation so that we add as many electrons to this grid as quickly as possible. And that's why we're going into the power generation space as well. So we're going to start putting solar panels on our buildings and trying to resell the power. We're now the hour is so late. We cannot afford to quite simply sit back and wait for government to try and fix this. We'll stabilize Eskom and we'll help as much as we can.
Sure.
But there's no guarantees.
And why do you think Solidarity was the best place to ask for this kind of help? I mean, is it because you previously put your hand up to be able to assist, or are there other reasons that we may not know of?
I think it's quite simply because we've tried to engage with government and to try and assist, to try and do. Obviously, when the power goes out, it affects everyone, not just our members, and we wanted to help solve the crisis. We're a very solution-driven organization, which means you can complain about problems, but if you're not solving them, then you're just whining. And that is why we've tried to solve this problem. At the moment, however, we're really trying to get to grips with load shedding. So we've provided the list. We'll help stabilize Eskom. But at the same time, we're looking at possible court action to try and open the bottlenecks regarding private generation. There is no reason we should still be in load shedding 15 years on. South Africa has the skills, as we know, we've got the capital, we've got the capacity. We should be able to solve this. And if government is not being part of the solution, then we're asking them to please just step aside and allow the private sector and the community sector to solve this problem. We cannot continue in this nightmare we've been in this for 15 years. We cannot continue like this. The economic impact has been incalculable. We just plain cannot afford that the world passes us by whilst we deindustrialize our economy.
And do you believe the answer to the power crisis solely lies in addressing the skills shortage at Eskom? I mean, what else remains a concern to you, besides the skills, of course?
Yes, so the one thing is we need to make sure that the electricity availability factor of Eskom goes up. But the secondary part would be we need to transition out of Eskom as sole generation unit. We really need to address the 6,000 megawatt generation shortfall that we've got at the moment. We've looked at international examples. We think the best way to do that is not with large commercial projects, but much rather opening the floodgates and allowing anyone who wants to generate and sell power to do it, to get as many people connected to the grid as possible. That will, in the short term, at least solve our short-term crisis, and we can do that if one or two policy bottlenecks are removed. Within a year, we can be out of load shedding. We're in load shedding at the moment because we want to be, quite simply. Internationally, we're not the only country that has power shortage problems. We've got the grid that can handle it. We've got lots of capital and capacity and skills in the private sector, but they're just not getting to the grid. And we're saying, unleash them. Let's solve this problem. We cannot sit by idly and wait another 15 years for another commission, another plan, one more large project. None of this has worked thus far. We need to look in the mirror and face facts and be honest where we are. It's now time for government to step aside, or take hands, or step aside and allow the private sector and the community sector to solve this problem. The future of generation and the future of power in South Africa will be decentralized, and technology has come a long way, where we can, with renewable energy, we can actually add enough electrons to the grid and then allow the market for trading electricity to quite simply do something that the private sector has been doing in South Africa for years, which is produce a product that consumers want to buy. And in this case, it's electricity.
And which exact skills are required at Eskom? I mean, and why is it so challenging for the power utility to acquire such necessary skills?
The exact skills that they require at the moment is they've got desperate need for help in the generation space. They need artisans that can maintain the steam boiler, the boiler kettles, and as well as engineers. Why exactly they're struggling to maintain these skills or to attract these skills? Well, they retrenched a bunch of institutional knowledge 20 years ago without proper skills transfer, and I think that is the problem that we've seen at the moment. But why they're struggling to get them currently would be, I think Eskom has gone through a very rough time the last 9 years where the corrupt guys have taken over, and that means we're in a situation where people were forced out, and now they've taken up jobs elsewhere. Hopefully,
Oh, Connie. Oh, we just lost Connie there. But that was Connie Mulder. He's the Solidarity Research Institute head, and he's been commenting about Solidarity's offer to supply Eskom with skilled staff, expert skilled staff.